that are there. They are supposed to provide the entry point for your comments, rather than anything else. So it is interesting, but then we spend some little time on first theme, sometimes second theme, sometimes just for purpose of systematization of the debates. But eventually, just feel free to enter in any of the points. I'll start by basically say that in theme one, we want to talk about advancing China Africa modernization and physical development. In those 30 minutes, let us delve into the understanding of what we're talking about. The understanding of the health and road initiative, the understanding of the SGR economic belt, the understanding of now the capitalists. So this is where our scholars will be really helpful breaking down for us to understand what Africa and China are up to, why they are advancing in this process. After that, I'll move to the next one. Now, substantiation. What is this? SGR economic belt we're talking about. In real terms, what is it? Then finally, we want to do good reference to policy makers. So here, those who are offices, those who are in Beijing, those who are in Cairo, wherever we are, and want to implement this belt. What are the concrete areas of action that we can identify? And after that, we will have pros marks, and we will have to move to the next session, which is called lunch after the first session. So with that, then, allow me to basically say one thing about the thing one. We do appreciate the contribution of Chinese scholars and particularly experts on bringing back a debate that seems to have gone. At least it's very central of our existence as a people that move forward in terms of development. That's the concept of modernization. And in the 1960s and 70s and early 80s, modernization is equivalent to westernization. And therefore models would be for us and what structures just programs or other things, and they come from us. And they come from us. So the result, the field decades, what they call the lost decades of the 1980s, 1990s, and 2000. What was the result? The collapse of universities literally through marginalization of what needed to be the pillar of what development. What was the result? Deepening of poverty in religion. So when China now started to bring back, particularly the Chinese scholars, bring back the concept of modernization, and the policymakers take that concept seriously and articulate the development planning. What are we getting? We are getting projects and programs and partnerships that are uplifting people. China has uplifted it millions of people. Between 750 and 850, depending on who is estimated, have been lifted from poverty. 500 million people entering the middle class, the largest movement in human history. Who can consume, who can spend, who can travel, and who can use products for industries. That's the goal of the middle class, because it consumes. And here we used to think that modernization is a time. Modernization is home. And what we see in the economic development and manifestation is the same. I want to invite you to share that excitement with me, because I can tell. I'm very passionate about this. Maybe I'm passionate about the wrong thing. I want to be told why. Maybe I'm passionate for the right reasons. I want to find why. But I think this is important. Something your fellow scholars who are here, which is important,
is the nexus between peace and development. Is peace important for development, or is development important for peace? Or how do we conceptualize this? Because as you look at the Horn of Africa, where Ambassador Jibril is representing one of our countries, instability, inability to deal with the effects of climate change, issues of conflict are affecting us. So again, that is something that we want to bring to the fore. And that will enable us to discuss the two other concepts, the economic belt and China's proposed outlook on peaceful development in the Horn of Africa. So ladies and gentlemen, men and women of letters, where are we? Ambassador, Professor Maluki, over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And I think in this second session, we are all going to stand on the protocol established in the first session. Therefore, I recognize all our dignitaries are here. I am very excited. I want to be one of the first to register my excitement about what is happening and this agenda. Let me draw from 1945. I want to say African societies were drawn into the international system after the Second World War. And when we really opened up to know there is a bigger world than what we had been used to, and we joined the international system at the periphery. Most societies had advanced, we were still behind, and we were faced with a number of agendas. The first agenda that faced African society was the agenda of decolonization. And we really fought, gallantly, and we were able to overcome the problem of colonialism. But in addition to colonialism, the second important agenda that faced Africa was development. Unfortunately, this is an agenda which has not yet been completed. It's an agenda that we have struggled with as a society, and it forms the backbone of our international relations. When African societies, get to international terrain, they are asking about development, the right to development, and we have struggled with this, right? And so, from that base, therefore, we as a society of people yearn for effective development. And the experience we have gone through as a society is that when modernization came, it came with a process of plugging off the elite from our villages and putting them in cities. We developed mega cities. We were able to build the city of Nairobi, also be almost like the same as London or other internationals. Unfortunately, the village was built. The village became, the periphery, and the center periphery, kind of relationship was established. This has been a big drawback to our development because the trickle-down effect which education was supposed to have did not happen. The ideal of development was that when people go to school, we have a need, they come to work in the cities, they go back to the village, and they pass back the wisdom, the knowledge, and the skills to them. But there was that gap was not filled, simply because the village was not, and the main factor was lack of transport. The communication infrastructure has been one of the biggest drawbacks of development in Africa. When you cannot reach, the next place, the next area, and you cannot do business, you cannot move your goods, from one point to another point, you cannot really talk about development. And this is where Africa must be very keen on looking for true friends who understand their developmental needs. Modernization that will have impact at the village level. That common Kenyan who is in Lokchogo, who is in the Twi county where I come from, I don't mind my identity, really needs to be part of the development agenda of the country. But this has not been the case because we have lacked. Infrastructure is one of the biggest investments we have the line ministry. We spend millions, but we have no degree. And so I want to recognize, the effort by the Chinese government and remark that a true friend is one who do more than says a lot. Actions speak louder than words. And what China is doing to Africa is seeing we need infrastructure. The standard gauge railway is an answer to our development problem. And therefore, I want to appreciate this initiative. And I want to thank Professor Nawala and your team for being a professional trusted diplomat. I just mentioned that. Because you have managed to have this kind of forum where we can talk and discuss and reflect. We really appreciate this. And so I'm excited to be in this meeting where we are able to talk about development issues, actually modernizing our community, our African community. Because development must be homegrown, and that cannot happen when we link different parts of our country, of our region together. And that cannot happen when we have effective transport. I've always been thinking from my political economy, knowledge, that maybe in Kenya, one of our policies when we got independence, we should have decided to make Kenya a transport corridor. Open, highways from Lamu, from Mombasa, all the way to Kinshasa, and have this as a corridor where the interior of Africa is going to reach the ocean using Kenya. Probably that development model would have changed some of the things that we are seeing. But it's not too late, we can still move on. So I want to emphasize the importance of it. As I conclude, because I know we are very many and I'm excited, we can do many things in this kind of a forum, but without public buy-in, then it is. I want to say that from my experience, a lot of things are happening, and China is doing a lot in our continent, but that information is not known by the ordinary Kenyan. And here as scholars, one of the best constituencies where we need to sell this idea is in the universities. We need to have university students and professors write, publish about what is happening, so that everyone can read. We can have scholars reading and writing about China modernization and the standard railway and its economic benefit. To that extent, I want to say that I'm leading two capacities. My capacity as a professor, but also director of the Africa Center for the Side of China. We have picked this agenda of standard gauge railway as a development corridor, and I'm organizing, in my center, I'm organizing a debate, actually an essay competition for 6 universities in Kenya, where students will pick these themes, write essays on it, and will bring them to a conference where they will present, and so that we want students to really understand, internalize, and know the value of what. So it is not enough for us to sit here and then after the conference we need to have follow-up activities. And Africa Center for South of China will actually pick this and develop it, we move it to other universities. 6 universities have been lined. I can even mention it. USIU, we have Kenyatta University, we have Masai Mara University, Machakos University, we have the University of Nairobi, and the 6th one is Egypt University. So I'm bringing those universities around the month of September, August to a forum, and we will want, the people from the Chinese embassy to come and witness when students speak, and debate about the development agenda that China has. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think those are very passionate remarks. As I think I will have 3 speakers. I'm sharing 6 minutes between you. One I'll call the side to speak first, but I will be followed by Dr. Obongi and finally Dr. Mustafari. That order.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, Professor. At the time of independence, one of the 3 major concerns and wishes for Kenya was to industrialize. And so we put a huge priority in terms of industrialization as a means to prosperity, as a means to greater levels of job opportunities and gainful employment. We also, as a region, the East African community, while as Principal Secretary for EAC, we were able to get agreement within the context of ensuring that we common external tariff. And this was the whole objective of this was to ensure that we nurture manufacturing capacity within the East African community. And such is the vision and anticipation, not only from a Kenyan perspective, but also from several countries within the context of EAC. So manufacturing plays an enormous role. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me share this story with you. It was 2007, 2008, when we started embarking on the planning of the Standard Gauge Railway project. At that time, I was the Chief Executive Officer for the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the apex federation for all the entire private sector at that time. In 2009, when we realized that the Standard Gauge Railway was going to be initiated and was a reality, we realized that this was a phenomenal opportunity within the context of ensuring that we'd be able to cut our transport costs, which currently stand at $3 per kilometre to a gold standard of $1 per kilometre. And this would have a huge implication in the context of value addition and agricultural transformation. But we also realized that this was one of the most important opportunities to promote industrial capacity. And so we created a consortium which I chair, Standard Gauge Railway Consortium. Key industries at that time came on board: the cement industry, the steel industry, the electrical cable industry. And we started lobbying government to ensure that to provide something to the standard capacity to the standard. This after all was a service engineering project in East Africa. Huge implications. It had huge implications also of demand for material. So we approached CRCC approached the government and specifically we had that capacity to provide inputs into this railway project. Initially, it turned down, we relented our thesis to China Railway Bridge Corporation. And we started finding dialogue. At that time, finally CRCC gave us the standard requirements, cement, cables, metal products, and so on. And ladies and gentlemen, we realized that our industry was not able to reduce that standard. And that was a huge challenge because, how could we import cement from China? How could we import electrical cable from China? And what this was the demonstration of this initiative of how such a project can use and reactivate development within the context of the country. Because what was insane then was that our local industries started to invest. And invested in transparency, invested in transparency, invested in standard technologies. And CRCC then, China Railway Bridge Corporation agreed to accept the project. So this was not in the context of raising our capability. One, not only because we raised by the railway, but secondly, we had to supply the entire continental railway expansion system. And that's big. That's big because it produces the highest ever standards. Now, secondly, ladies and gentlemen, we started to advocate how we could get our local artisans, fast and master craftsmen and technicians involved in this project. So once again, it required standards. And it's from this project that we were able to transition it into occupational standards. And became Principal Secretary for Education in the national government. And not only developed 250 institutions within each constituency, But specifically, we developed a policy for competency-based education training. In one sentence is to train to understand the situation. So I just want to emphasize here that this whole SGR is very important to us. Not only in terms of industrialization, but how we make our young women and men competitive global market in terms of standards. Because if you do well, you need to understand standard. To a certain millimeter. If you need to develop a better art skill, because of standard. I think going forward, this story needs to be expanded. It needs to be expanded not only in terms of industrial transformation and inclusiveness and self-reliance of our populations. But now we really need to take a turn in terms of how do we diversify and standard railways and transport logistics to last mile and to increase all sectors of economies of specific areas. Currently, I'm chairperson for Economic Development Investment Council from Mombasa. I'd like to say to it that we're able to expand the water transport system, we're expand the industrialization capability, and we're expand the tourist capacity based on this model. Because that's what vision in 2009. We thought wherever the standard gauge railway had a station, we allocated 10,000 acres and we create cities out of this, transformative clusters based on value addition and capacity. I'm challenging all of us here today. But can we go back to that vision of 2009? Can we go back to ways in which continuous railway system to really benefit the cities that are goes through? And I don't think it's possible because we don't demonstrate to you through a story that people are on board. The industry was on board. But I still feel that we didn't get full value proposition of this huge investment, and we yet to see magnificent growth in terms of accounting contributions as well as industrial transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the study after that challenge. How can we secure Africa? How can we build ourselves capacity around those areas?
it's primarily an infrastructural project. It is in a sense what I see as steel handshake. But if you use that, steel handshake. Beautiful expression or strategic partnership with China and European or mutual respect, mutual solidarity. It's also a power of modernization. And of course, that brings me to my point of view. That is the last one. That is on China modernization and peace which we are speaking to. As a body was caused by the SGR, I see more as not a transaction, but transformation and kind of results. For me, it is my finance and what it infrastructure as a public group. Not just to move goods and services, but also moving in the future, not just connecting cities, but also converging civilizations. One African, So, friends, for me, the SGR aligned with the outlook of peace and development. China this week. Complementing was global frameworks like the AGI, the SDGs, and the Agenda 2060. It reflects what I call one of the phase, affordable and might, where statecraft and trade share the same.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mustafa.
My name is Mustafa. We are equally excited. It's not just you excited about what we see in our African policies or an organization is making China supporting this work that is being done, walking the talk. I want to start by saying that it's impossible to achieve peace in the context of poverty. You cannot achieve peace in the context of poverty. That's wishful thinking. And stability and investments key building blocks to that as peaceful community. We've seen many countries in the global south who appear to have been peace, but the moment something small, the mechanization from the West comes in and fight amongst each other. That has happened so many times, including the genocides that we've seen, starting from the first genocide in the 20th century in Namibia with the Hereros and the Namas. Now, it's these serious global disruptions that we see today where international relations are becoming extremely transactional. International law is almost dead in the water. Except for the weak states who still have the wish agreement that international law can protect them. But it cannot, based on what we are seeing now. And this brings me to imperialism is back with vengeance. Imperialism is back with vengeance. And China is a country which does not have baggage of imperialistic tendencies. I think you stand a much better chance in the way we are working, building infrastructure for peace. It has a better methodology to addressing peace. And therefore, this third seminar on China-Africa cooperation of peace, it's my submission, and I believe many scholars here in Africa that we are not going to have peace in African societies, continents without development, without stability. Ambassador being the special envoy for African affairs, spoke this morning about the smear campaigns that is all in China. And that is expected. In fact, you should expect more smear campaigns from the West, especially, because what you are doing, it is not in the interest, it has never been in the interest, particularly of the Western countries, to adhere to the international law that they themselves say that they are the leaders of. We can see what's happening in Palestine, the genocide, first genocide of the 21st century. And when all this is happening, countries that are in Africa, leaders, political leaders, and our responsibility is to advise political leaders. We should be easy when international law is being trampled on, not by Africans, not by the global south, but by the global north. And so, Ambassador, I want to encourage China to go more in engaging scholars in the global south to address this smear campaign. Because those smear campaigns are done in the context of propaganda, disinformation, and malinformation mainly by the West. And I want to end, Professor, by typing on what Professor Maloney said. Public buy-in of these infrastructural projects is very important. That the Chinese engage and invest in the African continent and generally the global south, that there is more buy-in on the project. How to do that, I guess, is something that should be discussed and a strategy developed to address how the public buy-in in the issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Now, first and foremost, let me recognize the president ministers of Ambassador Will, who was a visit morning, today. Dr. Will, I'll give you opportunity. For information, Ambassador Will is our envoy, the President of Kenya more than one. To the Red Sea and to Somalia. Very recent to connect peace and development in the region. So welcome, in the meantime, I will take a comment from Professor Wainaina. I'll take a comment and I'll take comment from Karanja. You can see we are Karanja. You can see we are what is this and being challenged in the morning. We have to make our own fight. You have to develop propaganda and misinformation. You can see what Mustafa Professor Aluki, Professor Bongi, and how they are defend this thing. So I think we have hands. Professor,
thank you very much, Prof. Appreciate it. I really want to make the point to say that people know that you want to get rich in the roads. I want to get rich. I think it's also interesting. I noticed that the right to surely the ones coming from. Whether we have his name there, the might say very interesting. But let me place statement last week by China in the space of the trade. That's an area working for. Free trade. I think it's a principle of gesture, that's right. That document. But I want to also see the look at first. Actually, I think the point is I did ask that. What's the ball game between China and Kenya? I think China is very clear what works. I don't know whether it works. They're very clear. Do we know what to do? And it's something we need to step back about it.
What is SGR? 500 million. That happened in the war. What is it? To 500 million people poverty where they are. What can we go from there? Why can't we do it? Brazil 28 million for poverty. And I think those are the lessons we need to learn. Not finding more. And I hear this China is investing in Africa more. We are investing. You're looking for business. We support us in this. So the moment we can get us out of this interest, you help us. I will not have to have more, not economic debt. But those are economists. It's not economic defense. It's a lot of and I'm not supposed to do what is working at the compared to SGR, Tanzania, and we talk about the country. SGR. What's the one that connection is that the government just want to give an example. I thought that was rather good. The concept of success was to really cease in that region. All the program, all the South Sudan also cease. If you don't now the development is obviously the lead of now. And Ram was mentioned. Very important in this country. By the way, must very is to us as a support. Why you go in is where you get out. But Ram was very clear as next thing. The whole idea of where at the back of the shop. As you get into this vision that comes in maybe 6 years or so, the 10 process, the initiative, how do they argue in this country as one of our issues with beauty effect? And more importantly, keep repeating this one. What it is that China need to move 2,500 million people to poverty. That is something we should do for people. I'm very I don't believe that this is a physical consciousness, because it's never believing how share ideas. The examples, what's happening as we go. And something we expect team and see how we can demonize this aspect of the West. So much to this day we are not about. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. I think that was Trump because of the South. But it's an opportunity in African countries. So we can go here and say, how do we refuge from us?
Thank you, Professor Wainaina, on that. Professor Wainaina from the Department of Management Science at the University of Nairobi. That's where he talked about IT driving projects. It's very important that we emphasize that. Thank you. I think the thing to take from Professor is China knows what we want from Africa and Kenya. That's Africa and Kenya know what we want from China. That's where the African party, and I think that's the big message. Yes. Yes.
Of
maybe just to what has been said about China methodology, which was mentioned before as well. The professor was mentioning. I think what China has been doing was investment in infrastructure is a massive program on poverty reduction, that was mentioned as well. And I believe that's something that's really China's position. Some countries have been so this way as well. It takes of course study and leadership to work in that direction. And something extremely undermining persistence. It's an excellent mention. It's such a time to educate as an approach. I think it's not as from a humanitarian perspective that it was first and that can go in the context. Second thing I would say, linked to that actually, is that the humanitarian sector of all the nations is considered as well. Not only international law, international right, but also the humanitarian perspective. And I guess what we do. I guess also the aid has been very much seen as well as maintenance of the surveillance which needs to be completely and the only way I think that's across like us as well contribute in that direction is precisely how we engage in communities around economic development programs, how we create solutions with communities across this kind of approach. And I think that in that direction, thinking about this kind of projects, programs that we're talking about today. I think that could be one of the aspects how we can organize a process communities in a way that is looking at development and mitigating peace as well. And the last point, we have to face conflict. Yes, we have to face climate change, not only proportion. And I believe that this capacity to anticipate sometimes should be part of the strategy. So we are quite high and we are moving much more. That's management, that's the low anticipatory reaction. See that is a special one mentions. So I this kind of approach, which is very easily private sector, public authorities, humanitarian actors, around programs as well, years to consider intervention and scale. So I just stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pierre Cremades is the deputy general director of the National Red Force. As I said this morning, matters, disasters, all things must be taken the China has been a major leader in responding to COVID-19 and all the challenges that we have supported the South Ukraine and comments. Message how we engage communities around SGR belt. That's the key question that is being asked to us. I was a Raja in the state. The consensus observed is just not Mustafa Ali was talking about what's going on. No,
these points and you cannot even fit any information regarding what is happening. So even now, there is a program now as well as stuff from India saying that the stock exchange won't. Even you can't fit it. It's not a clinical offense. So these are things that are very about. And here we are talking about the biggest part of Africa. Here we are talking about what we can do in China as well. And all these are the characteristics. So here we are not talking about the new devices, but this is about that we need. So for me, the question is what this was like just put across. We see more of China and Africa. So you want to imagine what is happening. So that if all these things that happen around the world, all is find mechanism for stopping all that are saying, the roots that's there, is very much what we need to do alternative imagination. And that will also include again the same because that's a natural international where bombing was resource. Elsewhere. Bombing schools, even schools and all that. It is as if all the international zones that we them have started now we are reaching the end of history and we are starting so in my view, there's a huge hope for us in China in this cooperation. Even now we that there are activities, we also now people are contributing what they are doing our institute and our people and Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick of China Africa report. Those things also so before I come to Professor what Pastor Will and Fernando today. If you've got oxygen.
Thank you very much, let me start by recognizing Excellencies Ambassador Sabine and Ambassador Pori, together with the distinguished participants to this important forum. Africa Peace Institute is not new to us. It has organized similar type of engagements, actually regular engagements, and every time this platform of engagement has a value mission, and it is better, and it is of course working with team for this important event also for us.
Now, the
Now, the
topic
topic
here
here about China, especially Africa,
let me just from the perspective of
the perspective of
in the whole of Africa,
the whole of Africa, China has made a significant contribution in the sense that it is making the region, especially the whole of Africa, integration, economic integration, and reality.
in terms
of infrastructural development and connectivity. This is very critical. The BRI is once working in favor of these regions which are non-conflict, but land in development for many years.
and
Also, to really thank and commend China for being very instrumental in the long-term developmental project of the century, rather than kind of a token of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years project of development, which has been a mainstay of Africa since independence. The Chinese was infrastructural development. If you even look at the imagination of how the BRI is centralized, it's a global dimension, regional dimension, national dimension. And this itself is something which really we commend and thank Chinese for coming in a big way in this region.
in terms of peace and security, and particularly when it comes to peace
Development, the contribution of China is actually most powerful.
For
For example, I was part of the Sudan peace process from 1994 up to 2005.
and also the
The
South
South Sudan peace process from 2014 up to 2015.
And of
Of
course,
course, current is also
with the
the humanitarian issues in South Sudan,
and
as well as also as has been called in Somalia, the Chinese, the role of China in peace and development, and particularly when it comes to the peace processes, is registered very well within the IGAD efforts. Therefore, we just need to welcome the movement and welcome and encourage China to continue to contribute to this aspect of conflict resolution in this region. Let me highlight one important factor here now, being the area of peace and peace diplomacy. For me, the question is, yes, we have infrastructure, we have development that is put in place. In a region with fragility, what we have seen in this region, where conflicts can spark anytime. How can we, especially China, contribute to ensure that the infrastructure and development that has invested in terms of money, in terms of all the efforts, time, be insulated against fragility, be insulated against conflict. This is where we have seen the role of China in conflict resolution emerging, especially the recent achievement, which we now appreciate the role of China. The resolution of conflicts in Saudi Arabia and Iran, which has also a positive effect in the resolution and the escalation of conflict in Yemen. This force the capacity of China to ensure that they are able to contribute towards peacebuilding, towards peacemaking. And so the question is, we don't want to answer, Is it possible for China to focus on preventive diplomacy, so that the gains that are made in infrastructural development can be protected? Recently we have round of war happening in our region. So China produces offices for especially need to shuttle, at this level, at all the level comes down to the leadership to ensure that this war will not break out. So preventive diplomacy is therefore very critical for this region. And I want to add one small thing again, for China. Can China go on to provide alternative, just like alternative in terms of peacemaking by bringing board this formation called BRIC Plus. So BRIC Plus, China provide a role there for preventive diplomacy, for conflict management, conflict resolution, peace building, and service building in this region. This is an assignment that I'd like to have it as a core as China. Last but not least, China of course now going to in Somalia now solution to this. China also support the countries in transition as well as the countries that are this country is Somalia. Is a country that is rising from the ashes since 1991. It has progressed a lot in many ways. In terms of economy, politics, peace building has done a lot. So China considers support for other countries. I think it is important that China provide the requisite diplomatic support resources to these countries in transition so that they are also uplifted and have kind of prevention to relapse to conflict. So that is more interest. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the question that the ambassador is we are building the infrastructure that we now talk about today. But how do we maximize in order to use those gains in development? And that's the nexus between the outcome of peace and development of Africa and the SGR. That's the question the two. We try to consolidate peace in order to insulate development. Thank you, Pastor. Yes. Professor Revi Oboni.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. The contributions and the presentations.
My microphone, please. I'm not planning for that. That's for me.
Can you hear me? Oh. Thank you so much for the contributions and the study of the great man here. And first of all, we know very much. Because the question that is raised in my mind is also to ask how we the consistency that we have in our concern identity of our integration in other parts of the world. So you look at Kenya, for instance, and I began to show the contribution of this nation of vision bring on board. And when they say you have 5-6 years to the end of the 20 vision, where are we on that?
And one of the things that comes to your mind is element of consistency in identifying who we are. So you look at the era of President Trump or current regime, this stay faithful with us. I think that we need to identify ourselves so that we can be able to on each of those eras that we are having. One of the lessons that I've learned from China is that consistency, so much so that when you look at different eras, different seasons, you can see how each season builds on the next and from the next. And the lessons that we can learn from there. Talking about the lessons, why is Africa always learning their lessons? And one thing that you're going to hear this from colonial about 100 years or so. And yet since defining how we identify ourselves and how we see ourselves, yet Africa has much longer history. And what is it in us that's not built by those things that we have, that we can develop all upon during the moment of crisis and the moments that we need to radically and build and that is the question of transition that we have that never has been made to the rest of the world as we 21%. Can democracy exist in poverty? So if we cannot show that we show the question that we mentioned about poverty and similarly poverty and democracy. And so we find ourselves in democratic, but yet if we don't use the roots that we should be self-confident, to do the self-pride, to be able to participate in processes, how that identity can be identified and this is also about attacking the media space and the media background. It's also a question of telling stories, how those stories can be effectively communicated. I also come from Western. It's a pretty example of what the discussion from SGR to Western Kenya. Why? Put aside for a moment the economic development and think about the social relation of the party. Then we are pretty passionate about and our dead wherever they are restricted. Imagine this SGR when you can get the dead tomorrow morning by lunch that the how powerful can you tell those stories? We are particularly powerful and passionate about going wrong for Easter. If you wake up in the morning, breakfast, and activity soup, ready for Easter, ready for Christmas. And so we look forward to the SGR.
Thanks. We look forward to SGR. SGR is all our other social services. That is part of our investment. Kavin.
Thank you all for understanding of the protocol and establishment. It's a great pleasure in the seminar. Of course, as mentioned, this seminar also takes place a very moment in the world the issues is quite critical. Many places are whether we place. And we can look at the conversation around reconstruction of the conflict, then it's an answer to what expensive. I think that is why it makes most times that we stress the need for development. So that if we look for instance and the role of China also sustainable development in the last decade or so, China by view has become the most dominant by new ideas of international. We talk about all the initiatives, but the better than those initiatives is very transformational, especially for the idea of development, especially here in Africa. Let's imagine where we would be without ERI in terms of construction of the transportation systems. or digital cities or trade between China and Africa. And that's why it's exciting to appreciate the role that China plays as an example of global stability, contributing over 10% annually to global economic development. But as they say here, it's critical also to reflect on how to guarantee that whatever development proceeds out of this cooperation in China is not our back. And I think this is where the real conservation is. Sometimes you see African leaders right over what we have seen in China and witness the development. But then you go back and ask what exactly did you do to get to where you are and how can we do things at all? And that's the center, strategic decision making in continuity. So if Africa can borrow from China more than it's one state government. They know bureaucrats and private development as a way and exclusive way in a prosperity. Let's say that $50 billion of poverty just for the last 30 years, that was almost 70% of Kenya's population. But it is possible. And we see examples of the SGR as transformation for economies like setting a trend. It has been the place of this country as regional, delegations coming to a benchmark what Kenya is doing SGR. It's also setting a sense that Kenya too can infrastructure that serves today's needs. Might even have started to the board in the retreat, but today, young Kenyans are very high on this. No. So that transition before the new, in my view, is a very powerful narrative that the government has delivered for young people in this country. So I'm very glad to see continued collaboration between Kenya and China in terms of implementing this critical piece of the BRI initiative, and also the drop of tariffs after Africa and trade for the now trade and China is diplomatic relations, nothing else. So we hope that yes, they are extending movement also, not just in Africa, but also out of Africa.
Thank you very much for that. The big question. What China do to reduce its $850 billion for our poverty? What lessons can Iran provide Africa about this? It's not about the achievement that may be in the infrastructure. It is software, what they do in order to achieve that. That becomes the question that you have to ask. We can see the manifestation of the SGR and the margin debt. But we have grasped the idea that is driving that issue. That's the big question. Allow me now to change gear. The concepts. They are on top. Can we get the detail up to the proof of the eating of the eating? And then during the details, then if not another tell the taste of that. I want us to look at this started doing cream on their belt. And what we think the agreement that we made between China and Africa last year, the action plan that was agreed upon, from how do we pay for Africans? How can we as Kenyans maximize or leverage that agreement in order to transform the SGR debt into one of Africa's greatest debt? That is the question. Let me start by saying as my contribution. One. China has put on the table one of the greatest deals that the government put. From 2015, $60 billion. 2018, $60 billion. 2021, that was a COVID period, billion vaccines and millions of vaccines to ensure the vaccine is covered from COVID. 2024, 50.7 billion. Africa's knowledge is not enough. How can we leverage that benevolence in order to systematically realize our own development here? Forget about the debt. Forget about the debt. Put me in the debt. Put me in the debt. I want indebted to develop. I want to tell you the change of development. I don't know the change of poverty. So, let the debate begin. How do we leverage this in order to build this? You want to say something?
Thank you, Professor. So there's two ideas in our mind to illustrate. The first is, I heard what has been shared this morning. The first is to ensure that create effective consortiums which are highly inclusive. I share a story from an economic perspective on how it transformation, industrialization. But I want to promote creating a consortium that shouldn't be simply just a project, it should be just a project in which we dialogue Chinese government and the Chinese government and national. I think we need greater levels of stakeholders involved to fully realize the vision of China, and our partnership as a country, and our partnership as families. And this can only be achieved if we dialogue and consortium and takes objectives. That's a very key outcome of that. It's a wonderful conversation about how consultants and other platforms and other practices. But you as a person who is the chair of different issues in Ambassador, how has SGR helped you and you're here now in Nairobi? What is So then, Professor, the second point is Mombasa is the region as the start of the and all that we've discussed in terms of language issues, economic issues, socioeconomic issues, the success on Mombasa as exposed to the region. And so the thought process is to build onto existing strategic initiatives from Mombasa infrastructure, Mombasa Convention Center, special economic zones, the necessary structures that are required, structures of street lighting, solid waste management. We need to ensure we create the ecosystem for development. And the railways, SGR, is the precursor. We have to find ways in which not only are we able to achieve place-based development, whether it's Mombasa or Kitui, but as the railway goes further to the west, how are we prepared for place-based investment?
Thank you. We are managing time well. We plan to end at 1. We spent about 20 minutes before we started the program. So if I just get 20 minutes out of the program, then I'll be out of this place by 1:20. That's really what we want to time so that we are meet, but at the same time we have more time for the next agenda. So Professor Wayne, simple question.
You asked a question. I had a question about stuff. I went to those little clips from China. I picked up feeling items. access to public property, and community development programs. So further, what is the need at the community level? Interesting. The use of water irrigation, investment in irrigation infrastructure, expansion of small irrigation projects, promotion of modern irrigation techniques, rehabilitation of existing irrigation system, integrated water to mass market, training, and communication. But when those perhaps who are those yearly, goes to the child, the child, he has a different focus. How do we get better to the rural areas? And one of the areas that we need to talk about the meditation is that if you look at bottom-up from economic perspective, fantastic program, moving from the bottom, right? Implementation of what about that, but if you look at the genesis of that, because protection comes at the last point. That's what we get this. Even the manufacturing we have in Nairobi, I mean, there are 3 steps. That tweak will come from now. Pharmaceuticals will come from very well. And I think that's a country focus. You see that very interesting narrative here. Check the economy here. There's a big slide because this is a front truck. 2016 and 2015. 2020, we have that data. Super that data Cuba to the national. No difference. The levels of weight, what is this that investment? As African countries, are we targeting the right to terms? Familiar borrowing, what's your familiar borrowing? I'm getting there. How? We shall use more. It's a very interesting thing for those who use the SGR. SGR is particularly carbon. But it's going to more vast than nothing. Can you hear the coach and the notes? And all this coming up is full of fruits. Meaning, important mix. And nobody has this. When you think of this out by Kenyans, and you join them without biodiversity, that is concrete. It's concrete. I don't have a vast stomach. Because the good idea is that we are not going up. What does it translate? We are not producing. What we produce, how to take that model going back to the community. That would be my case. We are really looking at this investment is a big level of power.
So we need to emphasize production so that we can have a balance in delivery. When it comes coming up, it's full. Going down, it's full. Then the market is complete. So can you need to emphasize that production so that the full impact of SGR can be realized. That's the message we get from Modernization. Yes. Let me Jennifer, you are dealing with electric vehicles. So how do you Chinese electric vehicles and big Kenya? How is that? Yeah. You asked that I believe we have the first largest electric vehicle production and Jennifer is here. What is the story?
Can you hear me? Yes. What context the benefits of us who are not cross BYD? BYD company, and Modernization as we speak, more than 10 people cars. So last year, the mobility is leadership in Kenya. We have got now the leadership of BYD, and we're distributing them with the leasing company of which I am the managing director. So the question is how is this going? I would say that they're not yet there in terms of developing infrastructure to be able to open the vehicles in Kenya. For instance, we have only about 50 charging stations in the whole country, most of which are in the road. So if you're to enter an electric vehicle bus, you will not have the charging stations at Monday or Voi. Therefore, and most of these vehicles have a range of 120 to 580 kilometers on a full charge. So that means that you're not able to use that vehicle to travel across the country. However, there is a light that is tunnel because companies like our companies like companies who partner with BYD, they're trying to put up the infrastructure. And the Chinese are also very clever. They have come up with a concept where the vehicle can't come to the charger. So you actually charge at home, you do the installation for you or a wall box, and you have to charge over just the way you charge your holiday. You go and plug in your vehicle and charge. But for context, in relation to what we are doing today, what's our vision in Kenya for development? For instance, what Professor Malena is saying, we have the rail, the standard gauge rail. It's coming with good, but what are we exporting? What are we really doing as a country to improve our development? What can we do to make sure that China has invested in infrastructure for electric vehicles? They could come here and save our environment and even our sustainability. But what are we doing as a country or as a government to ensure that we don't adopt these vehicles and even do our local assemblies of the state? We can get the confidence from China. But are we developing assembly infrastructure to be able to assemble the vehicles here? Are we developing charging infrastructure? Are we even working on taxes? Because 67% of that vehicle is tax. There's duty 35%, excess 10%, this is 16%. Other small taxes have to cover the whole 60%. So when you think about it, the vehicle was $60,000 in China. So by the time it gets to Kenya, it will be $5,000. It doesn't make sense at all what we are doing. And I think we need more action on our end to develop working on the taxes to ensure that we can benefit from what China is doing to support the government needs.
What did you say? What do you want to be proud of? That 2015. You couldn't see that car. A friend of mine was there in March. Today you can see a very serious car. It's true. You see what the environment is. It's true. You see what the environment is. That's something. And that's something. And this vehicle support that. And this vehicle support that. I think I will try to make extra.
I think mention that part of the sustainability part of the electricity was very so we can't really and if you want to see the right next to it,
so we talked about
the SGR beginning of the past, new development.
Get closer to challenges of
climate change.
So it started as a small idea. Now it's expanding to before we say that here we are.
And before we say that here we are, probably dealing with some form of problems of climate change.
Something
It's something that to us, to us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
The challenge of us not putting the infrastructure that is needed to run these vehicles. First, we have metro stations, but we need to have administration. That's basically a challenge that we need to take so that I can use my electric car in my Nairobi to Mombasa and back up without having to worry about where I'm going to get it. Around the SGR and that feeling about it. Yes. Well, I have 2 minutes to finish this session so that I can get to the next. I know. Yes, about. Yes.
Thank you for this understanding about SGR. Coming back to its potential. My history, so I go back. I was looking at statistics. Thinking that various statistics. Let's see for example, some numbers. In 2014, approximately. The higher one was
Yes. But where are we? Now let me turn to Joki. Why are you saying to that flash of my appear by using French? Because I cannot see you. Just okay. Yes. Stop.
I was thinking about the role of how easy is it to Dr. Side put things, all these moving happening and using the same thing. And so my suggestion is to take for how appreciate what it is, and they are able to support the process. So that whatever happens, and bring towards you to share statistics of how easy the study, of how many people have actually got the brain as a result of the SGR. But if you ask them, many of them will say the SGR has not helped me in any way. They don't appreciate that. So we need to have bring our strategic communication around this SGR and so that when people then if we encouraging this stuff, what is very likely that Professor Masamani spoke about and if it can only come when last mile is receiving this and receiving it. So perhaps to identify the issue how we get information.
That was what being talking to this morning. That we need to shield our investors, our development from propaganda, misinformation, and all these kind of conveying messages that are not true and factual and not tell us rather they are just propaganda about bad when in essence you can see I think that's what Joe said. The communication has they are not better people than ourselves because we are the scholars, we are the communicators, we are the right we do research. So we know what is what. Obviously, we cannot ignore the role of discouraging. It's not our business to tell them what they want to do, but tell them not to do what they want to do. We have what it takes. We have what it takes. That what we have is useful. That what has happened is useful to us. Let me need to possibly this particular approach. We have the engineer. Today, I think one of the is where SGR is where the last time we had my language. You want which is that we want to go really nowhere. Just because it ended where it ended. Is it still nowhere even now the plans that are here.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think since some people did not understand the statement, the need for SGR has increased more than ever. Why do I say Professor Lee was saying as a storyteller, I think he was saying as a storyteller, in fact, Professor, we don't why translation these were good things because we were getting into what the criminals at least was in 2015. The only reason we are having highway because SGR came just say that arrangement or say that arrangement or give us now between Nairobi all the way to every now and then you hear I asked the Kenyans who are here. The rest of the excellencies. Why is it so story going on about Nairobi and Kikuyu and why don't we allow jobs taking place in Nairobi and is that issue of that missing between Joshua and should provide the right is that It's certainly not reduced, right?
Concretely, you are saying that there are plans concretely you are saying that there are plans just for the purpose of the record.
This railway is being because you're saying the first phase was the railway is being then another 120 or so, which took us to Susu. We still need another 370 kilometers, which will now take us past Susu, now take us past Susu to Malawi. Now, I think definitely this kind of you know that the more about consideration. But I think the solution was put forward. And now this was that you now have mixed finances. You now have mixed finances where it comes up with about 30%, 40% from public-private partnerships, involving human resources, then that percent then that
Thank you, Nyosa. Thank you, Nyosa.
From the perspective of the importance of insulating against from the hazards and while we can look, I mean, the example of we can use I actually want to look ahead, want to where again say where the SGR expected we do not focus on conflict. We do not focus on conflict prevention, management resolution. SGR never cross. SGR never cross. If Kenya into Uganda, cross Kenya into Uganda, never cross into Rwanda, never cross the DRC, and go the other side. You know, conflicts. Some of which are intra, but also have got a component of interstate. So I wanted to associate myself with the need to increasing and enhancing efforts in supporting peace processes. There are so many that are ongoing on the continent, but we believe that further contributions of other partners will add an impetus to resolving the conflicts in Eastern DRC. Just to add one small example that will show you how conflicts are really very challenging. There's a road that was Kenya, South Sudan called it was prevented, it was prevented that side of South Sudan because of associated disputes boundaries. This has affected the completion of the network, So initiatives such as engaging the order sensitization programs was the only way helping to get new buy-in, but also absorbing challenges and standing in the way of developing these infrastructures
obviously, started community, started as I say, we need more peace was South Sudan. So Uganda is a peaceful, so Kampala and so on, but now we have to work on the other part. Professor Balaki, advice of the solution, aside things.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor. Actually, just a very important honorable I think making transport to peace is very much, and it can really be one of the solutions to our national development challenges. I have in mind, some of our more counties in this country, and happening here, as we think of a railway to Malaba. Can you also go to Mandela or to Nairobi? Because every part of this country is equally important. And we all know very well. We have some, issues for which are yes. These are counties which are post our next population. We know very well our agricultural productive counties. We already have high population concentration. When are we going to have to plan as a country? Our populations are going to, and this will require our should be part of our national policy, infrastructure development, to Washington, to Wachoni, to when we take it as an then we are thinking of this sustainability of this country. So that's we want on one side, one area which this idea. This idea it is what it is very continue. So as we continue celebrating and good results, our focus also what has remained in our values are not equally developed. Not the reason is because some regions are potential with the human wanted to leverage for export promotion. Just a country. However, as a country, we must bring out aspect of peace. We know that those for the economies, when people are not able to be of peace, and it's because of the country. This should be one of the.
Thank you very much. Let me just a quick one. Does that mean that question? Just a quick one. Does that mean that question? The gentleman was apart from the insurance company essentially emotional engagement that the parties I see the extension to the Kenya, but this comes to my mind. This is the challenge of the generation of the virus. There's nothing in community. This is so much about this. But how so connected that they support all the development action that we grow from and help us to be a friend message that dialogue around the SGR. I don't know all this for the MNN because you probably much more tips on how this can be operate
This is much get the product. Thank you.
Yes. Professor, thank you. You have that to see. going to start from there. I would like to transfer for that detail that something concrete is on the way. That also should be. And as we move forward, a number of things that come up. Another thing that come up, for example, that we have seen learn lessons. We need to learn lessons about why managed to 850 million of people from poverty to relative so the city China has developed across the board, not only in terms of China is becoming the new technologies, particularly the energy technologies, but from the EV now clean energy. What is the China here? What have they done on 15 for 5 years? And why are Africa there? Those are the lessons of modernization. What lessons can we learn from Africa from China's modernization? The second point is that there is a inextricable link between peace and development. That's what we have Afghanistan, the African community, and that's what we have Africa and therefore East Africa. There is a connection between peace and development. The statement was made, you cannot have development, have peace in the situation of poverty. At the same time, you cannot guarantee development where there is instability and lack of peace. So that connection is very important. And then what we learn from the Chinese idea of peace and development is the idea of peace and development the main contribution made in the 20th century to sustainable growth, the observation has been made that the work started this is now evolving into economic, and it is also evolving but the expanding westwards is now going to connect countries 7 at present and possibly the Atlantic Ocean in the future. But for now, we can say we have an economic depth. Imagine around the really. And finally, the point has been made that whatever is happening in this economic depth is connected to the larger of the region. From what is happening to Djibouti and some of the what is happening to the south of Tanzania. All this is in mind is a major belt. And what else can we say about Africa is rising out of those issues. But we cannot forget an observation during the speeches that all this is not remote, that all this was not to the major initiatives that are not only to stabilize Africa and all of Africa, but also to stabilize our world. But also to stabilize. And lead a consensus for us to grow China. And this, therefore, touches on China's initiatives. The global development initiative, the global civilization initiative, and the global mobilization initiative. All these are intertwined with the right quest for peace in order to underpin development, and the right quest for development in order to eradicate poverty as a facilitator of instability and lack of development. And this regards then, it's my singular honor. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, that's one pillar of the outlook on peace and development in Africa, in the Horn of Africa. That is the governance pillar. We've not dealt with it a lot today as a governance pillar for right wanted to implement it out. But it is important to underpin that the role of the Chinese Communist Party in mainstreaming development in China. The role of Chinese government is state and the structure themselves something to be studied and see how they function. Beyond the directory of democracy, beyond the directory of all that we need to study how the party and the state help contribute to Chinese modernization and the stability and prosperity that we enjoy. Remember, and I've said this before, in 1980, there were only countries in Africa that were poorer than China. That was Burkina Faso, Uganda. By 1980, Uganda was forced to have 10 years of war before the rise of Muslims. It was free. China was an African country, from the bottom. 40 years later, China has eradicated the poverty from it. It eradicated poverty. So what does that tell us? It tells us the leadership of the party in China, the leadership of the state structure in China. What we call the development of state. That is what we use in literature. Again, that can be for part of this year. That we as Africans, we think the structure of governance. And there are some books in China reminding you how China work in order to aid this development. Thank you very much for that. And I am honored now to ask the board to really present for us. After she is done, two things. One, we are going to give a gift to our chief guest, the ambassador being for the con. And two, we are invited for lunch. But for now, let us listen to the ambassador. Welcome.
Desire politicians and the representatives and the businesses to enter their suggestions already encourage engagement to the local government themselves to have discussion about place-based development and also really enhance to learn from each other how to make the communities play their role in our development and our conversation, just like this. For Professor to officially conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need to have a very high-quality crowd for a number of things. One, staying focused here. Two, very imaginative ideas that are going to move the outlook on the Horn of Africa, on the Horn of Africa development, and three, to the great minds. Normally, Igbo is associated by this time, the post and So, can we get a clap for ourselves? The second thing I want to do is the African traditions. Don't forget this. African culture. Which is different from the Chinese culture. You don't have a case that you don't see culture. And here, I have a gift from our guests. Two African songs, half of African, and one more at home. So they can always remember that the end for the half of Africa.
Hi, how are you? I'm fine. I'm Victor.